If you are like me, you have known about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie for a very long time, with the news being revealed all the way back in 2015. So without proper context, it may be hard to believe that this movie is still not released as of January 2022. Why is this film taking so long, and why has it not been released yet? These are questions that I've been wondering myself for a while. So today, I'm going to be taking you guys through the history of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie's creation, and basically provide context as to why this film has not been released yet. April 2015. Following the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Warner Bros. Pictures announced that they had gained the film rights to the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Roy Lee, David Katzenberg, and Seth Smith were all meant to produce this film. It was even stated that they would be working closely with Scott Cawthon on the film to, quote, make an insane, terrifying, and weirdly adorable movie. July 2015. Gil Kenan, a director known for films such as Monster House and Poltergeist, signed on to direct the film and co-write it alongside Tyler Burton Smith, who is known for writing Child's Play. A lot of time passes and it is now January of 2017. This is when we get our first update on the film in almost 2 years, with Scott announcing that because of problems with the movie industry as a whole, the film was experiencing many roadblocks and delays, and they were basically back to square one on creating the movie. Scott then promised to, quote, be involved with the movie from day one this time, and that's something extremely important to me. I want this movie to be something that I'm excited for the fan base to see. March of 2017, Scott then tweeted a picture of a chair with the name Freddy Fazbear on it, with a Blumhouse Productions logo in the background. Blumhouse Productions is a production company known for many different popular horror movies. 2 months later, Jason Blum, CEO of Blumhouse Productions, confirmed that they will be the new production company behind the film. Then, in June 2017, Kenan stated that he would no longer be the one directing the film, due to Warner Bros. Pictures having development issues with the movie. Then, on February 2018, it was revealed that Chris Columbus would be the new director and writer for the movie, as well as producing it alongside Blum and Scott Cawthon. A few months later, Scott announced that the script was finally in its final draft, which would include the events of the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, and even stated that a second or third film would be possible. This is also the month that Blum stated that the film was planned to be released in 2020. However, on November of 2018, Scott announced that they had scrapped the film's script again, and there would be yet another delay. Then finally, September of 2019, the script for the movie was confirmed to be finished once again, and in June of 2020, Blum stated that the film's development was moving quickly, but he did not want to put a time on when the movie would be released. Then, in November, Scott Cawthon made a Reddit post. Here he talked about how a screenplay was chosen for the film, and the movie would begin filming at the start of spring 2021. Also included in this Reddit post was a few descriptions of scrapped screenplays, so I'm gonna read all the scrapped screenplays to you now cause I think they're pretty interesting. The F screenplay. Basic setup. Group of teenage troublemakers break into Freddy's. Chaos ensues. Problems. Although a pretty basic setup, there were a lot of odd choices here, which only got weirder as the story continued. The story ended with our protagonist in a secret underground animatronic facility that was designing robots for the government. Verdict: strayed way too far away from the source material. Tossed. The Plushies Take Manhattan screenplay. Basic setup: Plushies take Manhattan. Problems: Plushies took Manhattan. Verdict: burned with fire. The Random Charlie screenplay. Basic setup: Charlie and his friends sneak into Freddy's after hours to retrieve a lost toy. Although sharing names of familiar characters from the series, these characters had nothing to do with their game and book counterparts, so while featuring familiar elements of the game, it seemed to be loosely based on the game, and lost a lot of its impact because of it. Verdict: felt like a random bag of Fnaf elements with no real stakes. Meh. The Silver Eyes screenplay. Basic setup: Kira and I worked on 3 different versions of a Silver Eyes screenplay over the course of about a year, trying to find the right approach to the story from the first book. Problems. These were the first attempts I made myself to write a screenplay after realizing it was going to be difficult to find someone who understood the lore well enough to do it. Unfortunately, it also meant that these screenplays suffered greatly from my inexperience at writing. Even Kira, with her writing expertise, couldn't save them. Although these had some great elements, I ultimately decided to focus on making a screenplay from the games and not from the books. The pawn shop screenplay. Basic setup. A kid who watches after a pawn shop finds trouble when an animatronic is brought in. It turns out Freddy's has been robbed, and the animatronics were taken to different locations for sale. The other animatronics come to retrieve the one at the pawn shop, and the kid and his friends get roped into adventure. A creative approach, but felt a little bit too much like A Boy and His Animatronic. Too much after-school adventure, not enough horror. Verdict: seemed like a good idea at the time. The Cassidy screenplay. Diving deep, this screenplay packed in a lot of lore, following the story of Cassidy. Problems: spanning multiple time periods, following multiple characters, and featuring lore from multiple games, this was pretty saturated to a fault. It may have been satisfying to the most hardcore fans, but it would have left the majority of people confused and lost. Hey wait, maybe this was the most accurate screenplay. Verdict: ultimately more of a visual encyclopedia than a movie. This just wasn't satisfying, even to me. Out. The Misfit Kid screenplay. Basic setup. Single mom brings her kid to a new town. Kid finds Freddy's. Hilarity ensues. Problems. One of the problems in creating a modern day story with an old Freddy setting is finding a way to connect the protagonists to the restaurant, finding a reason for them to be there, and finding a reason for them to stay. The problem here was that the reason for the kids to go to Freddy's and have misadventures was too contrived and too forced. Verdict: not a bad setup, but it just didn't work. If I don't care about the characters, then there's a good chance no one else will either. Pass. And he added an extra note at the bottom here. This was going to be the screenplay for a while because it didn't have any serious flaws. I ultimately just decided it wasn't good enough though. The Ghost Trackers screenplay. Basic setup. A group of amateur ghost trackers sneak into an abandoned Freddy's. Problems. Although a very common sense setup for this sort of movie, the problem again arose about how to give these characters a connection to Freddy's itself. What ended up happening was too much of the story went into their own backstories and their own hardships, and it took the spotlight away from the story of Freddy's. Verdict: a stronger connection between the protagonists and Freddy's was needed. Lesson learned. The Insane screenplay. Basic setup. Another Ghost Tracker variation. This one involved the Funtime animatronics, underground ball pit tunnels, and a marionette out for revenge. Problems. As some other screenplays ventured too far into adventure, this one went too far into action. Verdict: too all over the place and too many characters doing too many things. The Mike screenplay. Basic setup. This makes sense. Why didn't I think of this before? Problems. Actually, this is a good mix. It has the best pieces from all the previous screenplays. Not really any problems here. All the right characters, all the right motivations, all the right stakes. Verdict: yeah, we're going with this one. It's fun, it's scary, and it has a great central story. Scott then went on to state that the Mike screenplay was actually the one they were going to use for the film, which is why he was being very cryptic while describing it. But then on September 29th, 2021, it was revealed during an article that the script had actually been scrapped as well, and the filming did not begin in spring like they previously stated. Blum also recently tweeted stating that the film is still in production and has not been cancelled yet, as well as going on to say that he does not want to write a story that will disappoint Scott. But besides that, that's where we're left off for now. It seems that this movie is going to take a very long time to come out, and they have not even began filming. However, this does have one positive to it as well. To me, all of this shows that Blum and Scott are very passionate about this movie and want it to be the best it possibly can be, which is great news, as it would have been really easy for them to just throw out a movie to cash out on the popularity of the series, which would have most likely resulted in a not so good film. Anyways guys, that's all we know so far about the movie. Comment when you think the movie is actually going to come out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.